Welcome to Unit 8, Part 3, Deviance and Crime, Chapter 10 in your textbook. This section is on punishing criminal behavior. So what we learned in this video: 5 goals of punishment, including retribution, deterrence, societal protection and incapacitation, rehabilitation, and restorative justice. So negative sanctions are put in place to decide how society should punish those who break formal norms. So if you were in charge, what would you do to punish people who break formal norms? And should everybody be treated the same? So there are 5 goals of punishment. The first one we're going to look at is retribution. So retribution as punishment, you may know as the philosophy of an eye for an eye or a tooth for a tooth. This is when the state applies revenge on behalf of the victim. And it's something called the principle of proportionality. So the principle of proportionality, the punishment should fit the crime. The greater the social harm, the greater severity of punishment. So for example, in places where the death penalty is legal, if somebody kills another person, perhaps they get the death penalty. If a thief steals $10,000, perhaps they get jail time plus a fine of $10,000. If somebody litters, perhaps they have to clean up the highways or do some other kind of community service. Another example is Amina Barami from Iran, who was blinded in both eyes in 2011 after having acid hurled in her face by a university classmate. She had repeatedly spurned his offer of marriage. When he was convicted and his punishment was to have 1 drop of acid put in each eye, effectively blinding him. Amnesty International stepped in and asked her if she would withdraw her retribution. She said yes, and he was not blinded. The next one is deterrence. The goal is to discourage criminality. So the philosophy is that the public knows the consequences of deviance, many individuals will not commit a crime. So, for example, making an example out of a drunk driver to generally deter people from drinking and driving. And this is most often done by publishing people's names who are charged with DUI. Another example is a judge may sentence someone who has committed intimate partner violence to jail time to teach them not to repeat the abuse. Deterrence works when there is certainty of punishment, and that's not true of all crimes. So does fear of punishment actually reduce crimes? The use of corporal punishment in prison as a deterrence. It was used in prisons in Canada until around 1970, and it was an official punishment. So these 2 straps are actually from the museum in Kingston, where there used to be a penitentiary. It's now closed. There is a museum. The one on top is a solid leather strap. The one on bottom is a leather strap with holes in it. The purpose of the holes was upon inflicting the strap on somebody, the holes would actually tear skin. This table is also in the museum in Kingston. This is what people would be strapped down to. So their legs would go in here, and they'd be strapped down. They would bend at the waist here, and they would be strapped. So is that a deterrent? What about for children? Spanking as punishment. Is it a deterrent? It's quite controversial. The third one is social protection and incapacitation. The goal is the prevention of the offender from causing further harm. So examples can be means of rendering an offender incapable of further offenses, temporarily through imprisonment or permanently through execution. So incapacitation. Rehabilitation. The goal is reforming the offender to prevent subsequent offenses upon their return to society. This was very popular during the 1950s and 70s. So rehabilitation involves teaching inmates skills and trades that are intended to provide legitimate options on release to earning a living. Rehabilitation also involves treatment programs. And the last one, restorative justice. Restorative justice is a new concept that has its roots in Indigenous ways of knowing. The focus is not on punishment. The focus is on responsibility, atonement, and healing. With restorative justice, there are three parties: the victim, the offender, and the community. The focus is on bringing together victims, families, and members of the community to recognize the wrong that has been done, to propose some form of restoration, and to promote healing. Restorative justice is most often used to describe informal norms of dispute resolution, like victim-offender mediation, family conferences, sentencing circles. And here in Niagara, there's the Three Fires Community Justice Program. Thank you for listening. Good luck with all of your studies as you continue on your education journey.